Good afternoon. My name is Ellen Benzine. I'm an account manager with Swipe Clock, and I will be conducting the Ask Me Anything hour with ApplicantStack this afternoon. As usual, we still have some people signing in. It is the top of the hour. We're going to give them another minute or two, and then we will go ahead and start with the webinar. I'll be right back. Thank you. All right, it is a couple minutes after the top of the hour. Let's go ahead and get started. As mentioned just a minute or two ago, my name is Ellen Benzine. I'm an account manager with Swipe Clock, and I will be conducting the Ask Me Anything hour this afternoon. And the topic this afternoon is on employer branding. Let's go ahead and get started. With me this afternoon is Carol Kennedy, also an account manager. Brandon Peterson may be joining us as well, but certainly Carol and I will be here to conduct the webinar. And as usual, if you ever have any questions about ApplicantStack that you need answers to, please feel free to go ahead and submit a technical support ticket. You see the URL there below on this slide, but know that you can always access our excellent technical support team by clicking on the white question mark in the orange square in the upper right-hand corner of your ApplicantStack screen as well. Let's go ahead and get started. Again, the topic that we are discussing today includes managing your employer brand. So questions associated with that topic include, does branding impact the success of your business? What are key components of employer branding? Does branding influence recruiting efforts? And then, of course, how can ApplicantStack help with your branding? As always, we try to include some what we call downloadable content as part of the presentation. You all will be getting a copy of this slide deck. You'll have the URL in the slide deck. But know that that is an article that Allie from our marketing department writes. She writes all of our ApplicantStack blogs on recruiting and onboarding and hiring trends. And those articles are really interesting, and they're packed full of information. You can always access those blogs from your homepage in the announcement section, but I thought this one was quite good to include in the presentation since it is on employer branding. After we discuss branding, as always, we'll open it up to questions and answers, and those questions can be on anything ApplicantStack. All right, your brand and your business. So how does your employer branding affect your business? And employer branding, by definition, and let's go ahead and take a step back and define what employer branding is, refers to the image and reputation of a company to its employees, to its potential hires, and to really anybody outside the organization. So branding shapes the perception of your company and what type of place it would be to work. Would it be a positive place to work, or is your employer branding is the perception that maybe it's not such a great place to work? So the question you should ask yourself is, how does your company appear to the outside world? But in addition, how does it appear to your employees as well? So when I was doing a little bit of research on this webinar topic, I thought, you know, what companies really come to mind? And you'll see the two that quickly came to mind, one of which is Amazon and the other Microsoft. So in my mind, Amazon, I can go on that site. I can pretty much order anything I want. It'll show up at my doorstep the next day or 2 days out. And if I don't like it, their return policy is really great. So I think of Amazon as as a great service provider and therefore probably a really great place to work. In addition, Microsoft, I'm using Microsoft's product now, PowerPoint. I use Microsoft Word and I use Excel, and all of those products are integrated that allow me to do my job. So I think of Microsoft as being a technical company. I think of them as being a trendsetter. And again, my perception of Microsoft would be that it would be a positive place to work. So a couple other examples would be Starbucks. Everybody knows about Starbucks, and maybe the perception varies depending upon obviously who you are. Is $5 is a $5 cup of coffee worth it to you? Boy, I love their vanilla lattes, but again, you see that Starbucks brand internationally, and everybody recognizes it. And then one more thing before we progress is I was traveling this past weekend, and a truck went by me, and it was a produce distribution truck, and it had a brightly colored ear of corn, a tomato, a head of lettuce was their logo on the side of their truck. And I thought, hey, those are pretty vibrant, fun colors. And then on the back of the truck, the little tagline said, "Baby carrots on board." So immediately my perception of that company is, gosh, that kind of sounds like that would be a fun place to work. But again, you should circle around and ask yourself how your company appears to the outside world. Let's talk about what creates employer branding. What are key components of branding? Branding can include your company culture. So what your values are, your attitudes, what practices that you identify with. Key components of branding also include what the company's mission, ooh, that was hard, and vision and goals are. And of course, branding will always include benefits and perks offered to employees. Branding includes communication practices. Are they consistent communication practices? Are they tailored? Are they fresh communication practices? And then finally, employer branding includes employee advocacy, promoting a company by the employees who work there. So branding is not just logos anymore. It's a compilation of all the things you see on this slide and logos. How does your branding affect recruiting? And I think it's obvious that a positive employer brand will boost recruiting, which in turn boosts employee engagement and retention. Promoting your company as a desirable place to work means that more candidates will actively seek you out for opportunities, and you always want that in a tight labor market. Research also shows that 75% of job seekers will investigate a company's reputation, and 50% of job seekers refuse to work for a company with a bad reputation, even with a pay increase. Pretty compelling data there. And how can ApplicantStack positively affect your employer branding? In regard to employee advocacy, you can create and implement an employee referral program. And what that means, and we've talked about this before, we talked about it actually on a prior AMA, maybe 4 or 6 weeks ago, allowing your employees to refer others. And we'll go ahead and I'll demonstrate that in a bit of how employees can refer individuals and how candidates can also mention who might have referred them. ApplicantStack can assist with your branding by allowing you to send consistent and meaningful communication to candidates and hires. So through ApplicantStack, you can email and you can text. You can also trigger emails on a stage change. And if you have premium texting, you can text on a stage change. So again, you're promoting that consistent communication with your candidates and with your new hires. And according to Indeed, 77% of job applicants receive no communication from an organization after applying for an open position. And I think that's pretty outrageous. Most ApplicantStack accounts, if not all, trigger an email when a candidate successfully applies. And it says something like, the default message says something like, hey, thank you for applying. We've received your application and credentials. We'll be back in touch. You can't touch every single applicant personally, but you can ensure that they're receiving consistent communication from you. Next, you might want to look at your job application process. And when doing research for this, the word that comes to mind, or the word that I kept reading, was candidate-centric. How do you ensure your application process is candidate-centric? And what that means is it must be a positive experience for the candidates that are interested in opportunities with your organization. And then ApplicantStack allows you to add your logo to job templates, your job board, signature blocks, offer letters, and your onboarding portal. Not only your logo, but you can also include text about your company, about your culture, your values in job templates and offer letters and on job boards as well. So the bottom line in regard to recruiting and ApplicantStack specifically is, if your candidates feel like the hiring process is running well, then they'll assume that's how your company runs, and that promotes a positive employer brand. All right, before I demonstrate some of the options or some of the functions we just discussed in ApplicantStack to promote your brand, we do have upcoming events, and I believe Lindy has dropped these links into the chat, but you can also scan the QR codes, and of course you can always register for upcoming events from the announcements panel of your ApplicantStack homepage. So on April 4th and April 30th, we do have Ask Me Anything that you'll see there, streamlining the recruiting process and Indeed updates. And we have a product webinar, recruit product webinar on April 16th. And I believe we will be having a guest speaker, Dan Hicks from our technical support team, and he will be discussing creating reports. I'm going to shift to my demo account right now, because some of the things that we just discussed with ApplicantStack functionality and promoting your employer brand, I'd actually like to show you. So I am on my Recruit homepage, and the first thing that I want to discuss is employee advocacy and how your current employees can promote your employer brand. I have signed in as an administrator, and if I click on my picture in the upper right-hand corner, as an administrator, I have the option to click on Setup, and I'm going to navigate to the blue menu on the left, specifically Job Boards. And the job board that I want to discuss is your public job board or your company's job board. And if I click on Edit Settings, these are the settings of your job board, of which you can modify, but the one I really want to talk about is Allow Referrals. And if this is toggled to yes, you have a live link here. And this link can be copied and pasted to your intranet, to a distribution list, or any means of communications that you have with your employees. But it gives your employees the means to submit referrals. So you can collect information here, or have your employees input the information, I should say, on whomever they're referring. Obviously, you want to know who is making the referral and for what job. And then once submitted, a candidate record will be created, and whoever the current employee was that referred this individual will also be tracked automatically by ApplicantStack on the candidates table. So you can easily see what candidates have been referred by your current employees. And as a recruiter, if I saw that there was a referral for a particular job for which I was recruiting, I would go to that individual first and foremost, because rarely would a current employee refer a subpar individual? So that's one way of capturing employee referrals. The other way of capturing employee referrals, back on my ApplicantStack Recruit homepage, I'm going to move to Open Job Board from the gray menu on the right, and I am going to experience the application process here for the accounting manager opportunity. So as an employee, as a candidate, I can read the job description and go through the initial application process. So this is the initial application process associated with my demo account. Collecting resume, obviously contact information, but your account can also be configured to track referral information. So again, a candidate in this case would be inputting if they were referred by a current employee. Once this candidate submits their application successfully, again, a candidate record will be created and you can easily track that referral information. So just a method of promoting employee advocacy there. Typically, employee referral programs, if the individual is hired, the employee that has referred the individual typically gets some sort of bonus. So we had talked about taking a look at your initial application process. And while we're here, let's go ahead and discuss that. The term that I read was all employers should audit their application process. So let's go ahead and audit this one. We've already gone through information that we absolutely need, which is candidate information. In my demo, a cover letter is optional. But as I continue through the initial application process, this is the default application that comes with ApplicantStack. There's a lot of questions. These are quite easy, yes, no answers. But as you continue through the application, education is requested, employment history is requested, references are requested. And this is a time-consuming process. So you as talent acquisition professionals should evaluate this. Is this a process or is this a questionnaire that you want to include in your initial application process? Does this increase abandonment rates from your candidates because they're like, oh, I don't have time to fill this out? Know that in ApplicantStack, the software is very configurable and you can always email or text the employment application questionnaire to candidates further into your recruiting process. And if you choose to do that, I would highly suggest including a qualifying questionnaire so that you can figure out whether or not candidates are a match for the requirement for which they applied. So you can create some questions surrounding the requirements of the opportunity, maybe questions surrounding requirements of your hiring guidelines. Include those in your initial application process as opposed to an entire employment application. If you collect EEO data, obviously we can do that. But again, once a candidate submits their credentials, the candidate record will be created. So again, employer branding includes that initial impact that you have on your candidates. So go ahead and take a look at what your initial application process is and modify it if you think it would be a benefit to your organization. Continuing on with how ApplicantStack can assist in your employer branding, I'm going to move from my ApplicantStack Recruit homepage to the library. And these are documents and message templates that you use time and time again. So I would highly suggest reviewing your library items and again, ask yourself, what do these do or how do they promote my branding? So this particular job template, there's a ApplicantStack swipe clock logo as part of it. And then this is information that we put in our jobs, standard information about perks of working at Swipe Clock and what our values and culture are. So you might want to include this in your job templates housed in your library. And when you create a job, all of this information is already there, and you can simply include the requirements of the job. Moving down to message templates, again, let's look at the application received message template, logo, and templates also allow you to pull in merge codes. So you can tailor your messages to your candidates and to your hires. The documents function, typical use case for the documents function is an offer letter. So if I click on my offer letter template, again, logo here, and you can always have text within the document regarding, again, your culture, your mission statement, your vision, your company goals, etc. In moving back to messages for a minute, we had talked in the PowerPoint presentation about consistent messaging and keeping and staying in communication with your candidates and your new hires. So it's through messaging templates, both email and texting, that you have the ability to do that. And you can manually send an email, you can manually send a text, but know again that you can email candidates on a stage change, and you can text candidates on a stage change if you have premium texting. And even if a candidate falls out for any reason of your mix for a particular job, you want to let a candidate know that, so that the candidate understands that they're not being evaluated for the opportunity. And from your perspective, that candidate might be an individual of interest for another job. So again, just, I want to say courtesy within the recruiting effort means share with your candidate if they just fell out of the mix. Close that loop. You also have other opportunities to brand within ApplicantStack. You can include text and logos in your signature blocks, and you can modify your job board. So if I click on Open Job Board from the gray menu on the right, this is my job board associated with my demo account. This does have a custom job board skin, which means that it mirrors or it has the look and feel of the website, my website. So a custom job board skin mirrors your website. There is a fee for that, but know that you can upload a logo to your job board free of charge, again, that gives your job board that consistent branding. I want to highlight this message here. This is the default message for job boards, but you can modify this message and say, really anything you want. Why is it exciting to work for your organization? Or you can add a link to your mission statement. So know that through editing your job messages, that message can be modified to entice candidates as well. And the same applies for onboarding. If I toggle to onboarding through the 3x3 square up here, and move to the Hires tab just to view what an onboarding portal would look like. Let me go ahead and click on a new hire, view portal here. Know again that if you do have ApplicantStack onboarding, you can brand that a bit by uploading your logo, and this message can be modified. So I think you can agree that there are just many opportunities within ApplicantStack where you can promote your employee branding. And what that means is that it's not random acts of branding. You can use your branding throughout ApplicantStack for logos and text, job board modifications, onboarding portal modifications, all to promote a positive employer brand. And a positive employer brand boosts recruiting efforts. So on that note, I am going to ask Carol Kennedy to assist me with any questions. I hope employer branding, or this discussion on employer branding, has been a benefit. I know while I was researching it, I found a lot of information that was new to me. And again, employer branding is more than just a logo. It's all of those components that we've been discussing. So again, I hope the discussion has been of benefit.
Yeah, thank you. Just a follow-up comment. Candidates spend a lot of time applying to jobs. I know it's been a while since I've been looking, but just the amount of time spent filling out applications, there's assessments that happen. So anything you can do to really connect with your candidate base and keep in touch with them and keep them informed about what's happening, that's always a smart move, just because it's crushing to go through that whole process. I've seen comments online where people go through 6 or 7 interviews and then they just never hear back. So just wanted to add that feedback, so that this is very helpful to know how to keep in contact and in touch with your candidate pool and have them be excited about your opportunity.
And your new hires too, Carol. You
Correct.
know, as they transition to onboarding, you want to keep that momentum going, that communication going. So not only candidates, but also new hires and onboarding. All right, so if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and submit them. As I discussed, I'm going to jump in here for a minute, Carol. The announcement panel is where you can register for future Ask Me Anything hours, as well as upcoming recruit and onboard webinars. And I had mentioned Allie in our marketing department and the blogs that she writes. You can access them all here. And again, there's just loads of information in those blogs. Do we have any questions, Carol?
We certainly do. First question, how do I add a logo to the job and message template? So
Okay.
you would know kind of where it was added, but we're looking for a little bit more information on that.
Yep. And so I'm moving on to the library. I'm in the job area, and this template, you can simply copy and paste a logo in here. And then you do have the ability to edit the size of the logo. If I edit this template from the gray menu on the right, this is the information here, the consistent information that would be shared when you create a job. And you do have the ability to copy and paste and size this logo here within the job description area. And then very similarly, if I go back to the library and go to the messaging area, if I click on this particular application received message, edit the template, this is where you can copy and paste that information. If you have any sort of difficulty in doing so, feel free to submit a technical support ticket, and our technical support team can assist with sizing your logo properly and ensuring that it's pleasing to the eye. And that concept rings true for all library items, the same thing with documents. Again, you have the ability by either creating a new document or editing a current template to add logos and any sort of consistent text that you might want to add regarding your employer branding.
Okay, thank you, Ellen. Follow-up question to that question. How do I get the application information to include the referred by box?
Okay, so that is a field that you can add to your initial application process. And the way I'm interpreting that, Carol, is to have a candidate complete the referred by field. Does that sound right to you?
Yep, there's a couple different ways to do that. So either that referral page that you had shown, or we can add that candidate or application field as well to the application process.
Right. So to add it to the application process, this is an administrative task, and I have signed in as an administrator. So I'm clicking on the picture of me and then setup. Navigate to the blue menu on the left, and we're talking about configuring your system. And specifically, to add a referred by field, it's an application field. So if I click on application fields, you'll see I already have it set up. But if I edit that particular application field, there's the name, here's that description you saw during my initial application process. You wouldn't want to make it required, nor would you want to make it private. But you would want to show it on your job board because that allows candidates to input the information as to who might have referred them. And I would highly suggest that you toggle that to yes to show on your candidate table, because again, that's going to show you as the talent acquisition professional if there was a referral for a candidate. So it's through this process that you can add that field in your initial application process. And again, if you have any questions about it, feel free to submit a technical support ticket, or your account manager can help you as well.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Ellen. Last part of the question, we may want to take this one offline, asking about the cost to do that custom job board skin branding. So Heather, we'll make note to get back to you on that question after the webinar. Okay, and I think that takes care of Heather's questions.
Okay.
Okay, and then we are moving over to onboard.
All right.
Okay, regarding onboarding, is the only way to allow hires to upload documents to ApplicantStack, is that through questionnaire? Is that the only way to do that?
So you can absolutely ask hires to upload documents, like maybe a picture of their social security card or a certification or something like that. The hire would be able to do that through their onboarding portal. And yes, it would be a questionnaire. However, if the new hire emailed any sort of information to an individual on your HR team, ApplicantStack users do have the ability to click on Add Attachment here from the gray menu on the right in onboarding. You can choose that file and then submit it, and the attachment would show in this area. So maybe your new hire is sending you a picture for the employee directory or something along those lines, or emailing you a certification. It all depends on how you set up your account. You can add an attachment that way as well.
Okay, thank you, Ellen. I'm not sure if you mentioned this. I'm going back to questions to make sure we cover them all. But if you email a candidate through onboard and they reply, that should also get that attachment back into ApplicantStack. So apologies if that's redundant.
No, I don't think it was. I think I didn't mention that. Thanks, Carol.
Yep, I always remember there's 3 ways to do it. So hopefully that gives you some options. Okay, and Heather will be following up with support on getting that logo into the job. So thank you for that, Heather. Okay, next question. How do I add questions to see if they're a match and if there is a limit to how many? So I think those are pre-screening questions with scoring is my interpretation.
Excellent. Okay. So what you need to do, again, I am on my ApplicantStack. Oh, let me just do a little switcheroo here. Back to recruiting. I'm on my ApplicantStack Recruit homepage. I'm going to move to the Library tab. And it's in the library where you can create new questionnaires and you can edit previously created questionnaires. As far as I know, there's not a limit to the number of questionnaires that you can have in your account, nor is there a limit on the size of the questionnaire you create. But as a past recruiter, I highly recommend including what I call a qualifying questionnaire for every job. And those questions you pretty much want to match to the requirements of the job. So you can attach a previously created questionnaire to jobs, or you can create a new questionnaire by clicking on New Questionnaire in the upper right-hand corner. And you name the questionnaire, you can provide instructions. So just very quickly, we're just going to name this test questionnaire. Please answer This questionnaire would probably be targeted to candidates since it is a qualifying questionnaire. And then you start adding your questions. So I'm showing you this. There's also multiple Help Center articles on this. And again, there's our great technical support team as well. But as you add a question, the first thing you do is you specify the answer type. So there are a variety of answer types here. Label is just static information. So just informational information is what a label is. Here are the other types of answers you can have. Yes, no, multiple choice, etc. You can read them. But if we choose yes, no, and say, do you have and I'm just going to simplify this. We're just going to name it certification. And if a certification is necessary for the job, you want to make it required and you apply the question. So once you create your questionnaire, and you can continue to add questions, obviously. Once you create your questionnaire, you then go back and score it. And by scoring, you have two options that you can mix and match. You can create knockout questions, and you can actually score questions. So if I go back to this test questionnaire that I created today, here's that question. Scoring rules. So if I add a rule, if a candidate says, no, I don't have a certification, I want that to be a knockout question. And once I save that, your questionnaire is ready to add to a particular job. And you have the ability to go to a job and add questions from your library. So you can add a new questionnaire here to this particular job by clicking on that button and then adding the questionnaire that you want. Can you think of anything else, Carol?
I cannot. Other than that's going to help you kind of narrow your candidate pool and really focus on those candidates that are, likely a better fit for you, and that's going to help you in communications.
Oh, I know. Yeah. And sorry, Carol, I got so excited there for a minute. I know how I need to follow this up, and I totally lost my thought process. If a candidate is knocked out, it's very clear that the candidate is knocked out. So you see this big red KO square by John and by Mark. They have been knocked out of consideration because of insufficient education. So again, it's very apparent which candidates you might want to save for a later time and which candidates are most qualified for your opportunity. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is that's the knockout side of questionnaires. You can also score questions so that if you ask a candidate how many years of experience do they have, 0 to 1 might score as a 10, 2 to 5, maybe you give them 20 points, etc. And you then have the ability to focus on candidates based on their scoring as well. I don't have any scoring here, but you have the ability to do that. And again, you can mix and match knockout questions and scoring questions.
Okay, fantastic. Next question. As far as I can tell, only one questionnaire can be assigned to a hire. Is that correct? And follow-up question, that is related to onboarding. Only one questionnaire can be assigned to a hire.
Okay, let's expand on that because you can assign many questionnaires to a hire, but you do need to embed it into a task. So let's see. I'm going to move to my library. I'm in onboarding now. And these are questionnaires in my demo account, as you can see here. So I might, request a picture of a social security card, or my company requires a uniform. What size shirt do you want? Those sort of things. So questionnaires need to be created as a first step. And then you need to include those questionnaires in typically a task. So if I look at the social security card license request, This is a task that can be assigned to a new hire. And again, if I look at the actual task template, it's a questionnaire task. It's assigned to the hire, and the questionnaire included is the one that's requesting a picture of their social security card, license, and passport. But to answer your real question, you can assign as many tasks with questionnaires as required in your onboarding process.
Okay, thank you, Ellen. Got a couple more questions. We're gonna have to send you back over to the recruit side.
Oh boy, it's easy to do. Okay.
You had mentioned automating emails upon a stage change. I'm hoping you can just show us real quick on the workflow how to actually attach that to go out,
Sure.
just to make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, that is a system-wide change, so an administrator needs to do that. I'm going to click on my picture and then set up. And from the blue menu on the left, I want to click on configure because you're configuring your account. And we're talking about the application workflow. So if I click on application workflow, you can have multiple workflows. So depending upon the type of hire, a higher level hire might have, or excuse me, job, or might have a different recruit flow than maybe an entry level opportunity. But what I'm going to show you right now is my default application workflow. And this looks a little scary, but we're going to go ahead and talk through it. So the new stage, and that's the stage where a candidate falls when they successfully apply, has this email triggered. And this is the email that I was talking about. You remember that percentage, 77% of candidates receive nothing from an organization after they apply. All ApplicantStack accounts, the default is that this email goes out so your candidates know at least that they have successfully applied. But this email is triggered at the new stage. And if we continue through that thought process, this email is triggered at the phone screen stage, and I have a text triggered as well. So looking through this process, just for an example, if I edit a workflow stage, then I have the ability to send emails, trigger emails at this stage. So again, your email would need to be created, your message would need to be created in the library, and then you can choose whatever email message you want. You can save the change or submit the change, and then that email will be triggered. So if you're playing around with triggering emails, I would highly suggest that you create a test candidate, like yourself with your personal email, and run through your workflow to ensure that that process is what your desired process is.
Okay, thank you, Ellen. A couple more questions have come in. We'll keep you in Recruit for now. Once you set up a job in Recruit, you don't have to set up again each time there is an opening at that same location. Is that correct? So it looks like the same job, but different location. I would maybe mention cloning.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to, you can do that either way. I'm on my ApplicantStack Recruit homepage, clicking on the Jobs tab. And this accounting manager opportunity is located in Raleigh, North Carolina. So if I move all the way across to the Actions column, I can view the details of the job. I can clone the job, but while we're at it, let's go ahead and the other options are edit or delete it. But if you clone a job, and let me go ahead and do that, you'll see that a job ID is automatically created. You can modify that if you want. You can modify your location here. And in my case, my location is a drop down. So I could choose Miami, Florida. All of this information may stay the same or could be modified. Campaign start date would definitely be modified. I don't even know how that got in there. 2011, wow. Salary range, if there's a cost of living differential, you might modify the salary range. But again, here is that job description, and then you specify the owners and the hiring managers, and once you save it, it would be in draft mode. So you would still need to review it, open the job, and then launch it to not only your organization's job board, but also those third-party job boards as well. The other way to do it is if you go into the library and you've got your job templates here, you can always clone in the library as well.
Okay, thank you. Next questions, two-part question. Should we attach a task to the candidate or the job? And then as a follow-up question, can the onboarding task be assigned to multiple users? So I'll read that second one again, Ellen, but first part, should we attach a task to the candidate or the job?
So, you know, that actually that you can attach a task to both. So I've moved from my homepage to the jobs tab and the accounting manager opportunity, and here's a task tab. So a task surrounding a job could be, you know, modify the job. Maybe something has changed and you're asking an individual, an ApplicantStack user to modify the job. So a task can be associated with a job. A task can be associated to another ApplicantStack user. So maybe it's time to check references on David Jones. So you can assign that task to an individual on your HR team to check references. What was the follow-up, Carol?
Yep, the follow-up question. So I think to wrap up this question, it really depends on the nature of the task. Is it something more job-centric or is it something more candidate-centric? So maybe review this job. What do you think? Do we need to add anything? That might be a job task.
Yep.
And something, please phone screen this candidate. Please do a background check. That might be something that's more appropriate for a candidate type task. So it's really going to depend. The second part of the question, can an onboarding task be assigned to multiple users? And I think we're limited to the one. There's when you go to assign a task, you can pick which user that goes to. I think we're limited to one.
You know, let's try it out here. So I'm going to add a task. This is happens to be my new hire record. Add a task, and let's see who we can assign it to. Okay, so in this case, and I am in onboarding, it's only one individual. So in this case, depending upon the task, it would go to the hire or the hires manager. For example, if the hires manager needs to procure a workstation or something like that, the task can be assigned to the hires manager. So to answer your question, it can only be assigned to one individual. Now, you could have multiple tasks and assign them to different people if you wanted to. It just all depends on your onboarding processes. Did that do it, Carol, do you think?
I believe so. We do have a follow-up to a prior question. So I think this is related to the question about setting up a job on Recruit at different, or excuse me, opening same location versus different location. How about new hires for same position, same location? Example, request for additional staff or replacing a departing employee. That might depend partly upon your process. So are you running reports? Do you want one hire per opening, or is it okay if you have multiple? We've got a couple different ways to handle that. You can keep the same job open and continuously hire against it. We have some customers doing that. We do have, Ellen, if you go into edit a job, we've got the ability, I think there's to have number of openings as a field. And then that will decrease as you hire against that.
Correct.
Yep. So there's that option. or you can clone and open up a second job for that same position. So it's really going to be up to you in your process. Do you want it neat and tidy, one per one? Is it okay to keep hiring against the same job opportunity? So that's more of a, I think, a process question. But we can run it both ways out of ApplicantStack. Ellen, anything to add to that?
The only thing I have to add, if you want this available positions field, that's something that our technical support team needs to turn on in your account. So for example, if you're hiring multiple account managers and you do move a candidate to the hired stage in your recruit flow, this available position counter would decrease by 1. So again, if that's of interest, please submit a ticket and a member of that group can assist. That's not something you can do as an ApplicantStack user.
Okay, we got to thank you for that. So,
thank yous.
Fantastic. That was helpful. And that is it for the questions for now. So we may just give everyone another 15 seconds or so if you have any remaining questions. But
all right. And while we're looking at that, again, always check the announcement section for any sort of upcoming webinars and Ask Me Anything hours, and of course the blogs. And if I click on this link, you can just see some of the blogs that Allie has written. And again, I have found them very beneficial and very interesting. And then to access our technical support team, you can do so by clicking on the white question mark in the upper right-hand corner and ask a question. And if you then complete the template here, your question will be submitted and routed and assigned, and you'll get a response back from an individual from that team. You'll also notice our help center here. And one of the questions was surrounding how to create a questionnaire. So if you just input questionnaire here, there'll be a variety of videos and articles that will help you in creating questionnaires. Excuse me. And of course, you have resources in your account manager as well as technical support team to assist as well.
Okay, Ellen, we did have one last question come through. Is there a reason uploads are called questionnaires? Most people would probably think of a questionnaire as actual questions versus the process of uploading documents. I'm thinking that refers to on the onboard side where you have to create a file, yes, a file type question in order for them to upload. Basically what we're doing is we're creating a field within that questionnaire. So it's a field type, is that right, Ellen? Question within the questionnaire, which will give them a file type, excuse me, to attach that and upload it into the system. So yeah. In a way, sort of is, I can see where it can be confusing, but it is a question, you know, please upload this here. Here's a box to do that. And that's why I think it was included as part of that process.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep, I can certainly see.
I think yeah, software design, I think, is what it relates back to.
Right. Exactly. So we may have, for example, a direct deposit questionnaire with, or form, you know, you are completing fields, but one of those fields is please attach a voided check. So maybe just another kind of way to think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think with that we are caught up, and if any more trickle in, yep.
Are you watching your screen? Because when you watch, they come in. Yes. All right. So, you know, during these Ask Me Anything hours and these webinars, we share a lot of information. And please, please do not hesitate to either get in touch with your account manager or submit a ticket. If, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, I know Ellen and Carol spoke about questionnaires, or they spoke about how to trigger an email, but I just don't remember the steps to do so. So please don't hesitate to ask us how to do something that we've discussed during any of our webinars, because again, I know we share a lot of information. So on that note, I thank you all for participating in this Ask Me Anything hour. And again, we've got additional webinars already lined up through April, and we will be scheduling the rest of Q2 webinars shortly. So continue to click on these links and register. And we look forward to seeing all of you again soon. And again, thanks very much from your account management team. Oh, and our marketing team. We've got 2 marketers online as well. So thanks. Thank you, Lindy and Lauren. Those are the marketing individuals also online. So again, thanks to all, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, take care, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.